350,000 followers on Instagram 6 months later.
And I was thinking, there's no way we're gonna accomplish this. I would have given up. I would have given up on month 3, and I would have been stuck at 4,000 or 5,000 followers forever. And on Instagram, the growth was 500 followers in 2 months. And I was like, Brian, at this rate, I'm gonna be 65. And you said, Nausheen, trust the process. There are so many coaches that are not coaches, but working with you guys is the real deal.
All right, Nausheen, welcome. I appreciate you being here. So, we're sitting today, 350,000 followers on Instagram 6 months later. First question is, how does it feel?
Incredible. It just feels incredible because when we first started working together, it was a distant dream. And 100K was the dream.
Right.
And we 3x'd the dream, so I'm ecstatic.
Love that, love that. Now, for the people watching, let's take it back to the beginning a little bit. First of all, what it is that you do, if you would have to explain a little bit to the people watching.
Sure, I'm a public speaking coach, and I help people communicate with more impact and confidence.
All right, love it. And when you first started working together, I think you had around 1,000 followers on Instagram, right? Yeah. How long have you had those followers for on Instagram?
Forever. Since I started the Instagram account, of course, the follower accumulation was very, very slow. Mm-hmm. And the last year that we were working on this, before I met you guys, we had been posting on Instagram regularly for every single week, every single month, and seeing very few results. Every reel had maybe 200, 100 views, and it was frustrating. So it was a year of frustration that led me to seek out you guys and realize that we need real help from real experts.
Yeah, and the thing was, you were already pretty big on LinkedIn. I think already more than 100,000 followers in there. But the big problems you were facing is, as you were saying, like you were posting consistently. You were mainly repurposing LinkedIn content, I believe, but like crickets, right? What do you think was the reason why it wasn't working, the strategy that you were using?
Nothing was tailored to Instagram as a platform. Like you said, we were just repurposing content from LinkedIn and crossing our fingers and hoping, oh, maybe it'll work. It did not work.
Right.
And we just didn't know how to customize for Instagram because I had studied LinkedIn. But when I started to try to study Instagram, it was way more of a black box. So it was just not easy for me to understand, what am I doing wrong? What should I do? What does the algorithm want? So I think it was really lack of flexibility and adaptation to the platform, lack of customization, and lack of knowledge and insights on the algorithm.
Yeah, I think that word you use, customization, is key. As you know, right now we started working with quite a few people, also with your help, coming from LinkedIn and moving to Instagram, and it's just a different language, right? So it's super important to understand that in the first place, because I think what you demonstrated is that input is one thing, but intention and strategy is something else, right? Because you could be posting for years, literally every single day, not missing a single day. But if it's not tweaked in the right direction for the new platform that it is that you want to grow, in this case, Instagram, sadly, it's not going to work, right? I do want to ask you, why Instagram in that specific moment? Why did it matter so much to you? Coming from LinkedIn.
My goal was always to grow my thought leadership because my ambition is to be known as one of the top 3 global public speaking coaches. And I knew that I had to break out of the LinkedIn bubble. LinkedIn was amazing, and it's still very close to my heart as a platform. It's the first platform I grew on. So I feel the same way for LinkedIn as you guys do about Instagram, right? It's in a way our home. Yeah. And the growth was slow, consistent, and stable. So I understood LinkedIn, and I was part of the LinkedIn ecosystem. But if I had just stayed on LinkedIn, I would have just been a big fish in a small pond. But I wanted to be a big fish in a big pond. Yeah. And that's why the idea was to break out of the LinkedIn bubble, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, go on YouTube, and have my presence everywhere. And after talking to you for the first time, I remember I was confused between whether I should go on YouTube or whether I should go on Instagram, because I understand that you cannot grow on multiple platforms simultaneously. You have to go all in on one platform. And I remember something that you told me, Brian, really helped me get into the Instagram mindset and go all in on Instagram. You said, Nausheen, you want to do long form content on YouTube. How can you crack long form without cracking short form? And I was like, that makes so much sense. If I don't know how to grab attention, if I don't know how to make videos go viral, make myself known in 60 seconds, how can I do it for 15, 20, 30 minutes? And that's what made me realize, yes, short form is the one to master first when I reach a really broad audience. And then I should build on YouTube, which is now the next step.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that analogy that sometimes we use. Like, you want to start running, you're not gonna start with a marathon. Let's run 1 kilometer first, right? And I mean, we're shooting a YouTube video right now, right?
Yeah.
So we understand the importance of YouTube, but we're confident that hundreds, thousands of people will see this video because now we build this audience on Instagram and we can control the traffic and send it to longer resources like this where people can spend more time with us, right? But yeah, I think you brought a great point there, which a lot of people that are looking to start content creation, to grow their business, grow their leadership, whatever that might be, they try and focus on YouTube, and that can be a very sad experience at first if you don't have the right pillars in place, the right elements.
And Instagram really brings that middle ground between platforms like TikTok, in which you can get pretty easily a lot of views, but usually doesn't translate as much into business. And of course, you have something like LinkedIn, which is very B2B specific, but at the same time, on Instagram also, I mean, we built our entire business out of Instagram. And so you have that good balance between learning how to create short form content and that audience that you build also translating into business.
Yeah, and there are two things that you guys talked about that are really interesting here. One is platform choice, what you're talking about in terms of choosing Instagram as a platform. A number of people, especially on LinkedIn, are convinced that Instagram is way too saturated. In fact, one of the reasons why we love LinkedIn is because it's not saturated yet. There's only 1 to 2% of the billion or so people on LinkedIn that are actually creating content. I believe that percentage is much higher for Instagram, which means it's much easier for your voice to get drowned out, and it becomes intimidating for a LinkedIn creator to think about Instagram. So not only is it a black box, but they also feel like it's way too saturated. I'm never going to make it. And that leads me to that mindset piece that was so crucial, because it can be super demotivating if you just try brute force. You're like, I'm just going to post, I'm going to post, I'm going to post, and something's going to work. No, it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks, which is relevant given the Italian context of this conversation.
I love that, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really powerful in that sense what you were saying, because when it comes to Instagram, in some sense, you can also think about it as like, yes, sure, it's true that there is more saturation, there's a lot more competition, but at the same time, if you know how to place yourself strategically, it also means that there's already a lot of attention, especially on topics that have a lot of interest, like public speaking, for example, like what we're doing with you. And it's like, yes, there's already a lot of people that talk about that, but because of that, it also means that there's a big market, there's a lot of people that are interested in that topic. And so if you know then how to place yourself in the right position and how to talk about the right topic that people already have interest for, that's when really you can get the attention of the people also on that platform.
This is so crucial. This is exactly the big fish in a small pond situation where, yes, on LinkedIn, I am pretty much the best known public speaking coach because I am so active. I have a great community, and a lot of people on LinkedIn, thought leaders on LinkedIn, have worked with me and they seek me out. And the fact that I am able to have a voice there is in no small part to the fact that, yes, it is a smaller ecosystem, but because of that, you're also restricted. And the fact that, yes, Instagram just gives you instant access to a much broader audience. You cannot underemphasize that fact. That is so crucial.
Yeah. And, something that I want to bring up here also in our journey. I mean, of course, now 350,000 followers after 6 months of working together, but it wasn't that easy at the beginning, right? And we really care about making people understand the process because, first of all, it's about setting the right expectations, but also proving to people how important it is to stick to the plan, trust the process, right? So our growth compounded like crazy. I believe the first 4 months were very, very slow, and then everything happened in the last 2 months. Can you, let's say, guide us a little bit through how you felt in those 4 initial moments? And I want you to be genuinely honest, and then how you felt in the last 2.
I love that we're talking about this because everyone sees the 350,000. No one sees the blood, sweat, and tears that went into those first 4 months when it seemed like nothing was working. So the first thing I want to highlight here is you're probably seeing a little bit of their energy in this conversation, but it's nowhere near the amount of energy and support that they bring in the actual coaching program. Because the first 4 months, I swear, if Brian wasn't my coach, I would have given up. I would have given up on month 3, and I would have been stuck at 4,000 or 5,000 followers forever. And there were some really interesting things that happened in those first 4 months. First was the experimentation mindset, which is something I know, right? I am a creator. I understand that nothing is going to work right off the bat. However, LinkedIn was different because things did work. LinkedIn has a very straightforward route in terms of growth and engagement. And so the moment I started applying myself on LinkedIn, I got 5, 10, 15, 20,000 followers within months. And on Instagram, the growth was 500 followers in 2 months, another 1,000 in the next 2 months. And I was like, Brian, at this rate, I'm going to be 65 by the time I get to 100,000. Please, I don't want to be 65. And you said, Nausheen, trust the process. We understand the algorithm. It requires experimentation. We will not know what works for you till it works for you. And you told me, just follow the strategy. We kept changing and adapting the strategy based on results, based on our research, based on your insights. And you said, we follow the strategy, we follow the path, and you will get your first viral hit, and everything will change. Again, a big difference between LinkedIn and Instagram. On LinkedIn, yes, you get viral hits, they don't change the game for you. Yes, they bring you sometimes 1,000, 2,000, maybe 5,000 followers, best case scenario, but doesn't propel you. You have to have consistent growth on LinkedIn. With Instagram, it's quite different because you get a few viral hits, you can grow by 100,000 followers, which is really what happened to us. So we got that first viral hit in month 4 or month 5, I believe, and everything exponentially exploded. And that was a great journey because it really showed us that the 4 months of work that we put in was laying the groundwork and understanding what works with this audience. How do we present ourselves? What kind of language do we use? What kind of hooks and topics and visuals should we use? What kind of formats? And that is what really helped us get to a point where we understand what's working. So the first 4 months were challenging, really challenging. But the first time we saw the results, that was the first proof, because I always believed in you guys. I knew that you were the right people to work with. And if you guys remember, you didn't have to reach out to me. Right. There was no outreach. I reached out to you. I took your course and I was like, these guys are legit. Like they know what they're talking about. I booked the call myself and I knew that I wanted to work with you. So I always had faith that you knew what you were doing. But when my strategy wasn't working in those first 4 months, I thought, maybe they just don't know how to handle the public speaking niche. Maybe they only know how to work with creators who talk about Instagram. And that is very specific to LinkedIn as well, because on LinkedIn, this is something a lot of LinkedIn people say, oh, it's so easy to grow on LinkedIn if you talk about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn coaches have a very easy time, or a much easier time, let's say, versus people like me who talk about public speaking or communication skills, things that are not about LinkedIn growth. And I thought, maybe the same logic applies to every platform. Like if you talk on YouTube about YouTube, maybe it's easier, so growth is easier. But that's a myth. It's a complete myth, because if you can talk about things that interest people in a way that grabs their attention, keeps their attention, gives them value, you can talk about garden hoses. You can talk about children's toys. You can talk about mustache grooming, and it will go viral. You have a very groomed mustache.
And we've seen it with a lot of our clients, because they are really like in the most possible different niches. And one thing that I just wanted to touch on real quick is honestly, I feel like we like much more to share your story with clients than some of the craziest results that we have, because we have genuinely people that join and in a few weeks reach 100,000 followers starting pretty much from scratch, which is crazy. But paradoxically, I'm like, I don't want to pass the concept that this is extremely easy, because oftentimes they also have everything right in place.
Yeah.
They already are content creators. They already have some experience in front of the camera. They're already really good. They already have some experience with Instagram. And those are the people that have that crazy growth once we actually implement the right things. We like much more to share a story like yours because I feel like that's the experience that most people actually go through.
Yeah.
They have all of this effort that they already put in. They just don't have the right strategy. Even when they have the right strategy, they need to understand that there's patience, there's that experimentation phase. They need to really test out a lot of things before they get to the right point. And we really like always to set the expectations in that sense.
Yeah, it's all about expectation because like maybe like we have multiple clients, you know, cracking those 100,000 right now in the first like 2-3 weeks, which is crazy. But I genuinely believe that all of them reach that level so fast because of they don't have the mindset of this is going to be super, super easy.
Yeah.
So they put so much work up front, right? And of course, with time, like we never hide stuff. Like, of course, our systems improved in 6 months. Of course, now we can get there faster, right? But at the same time, if you join and you're like, oh, it's going to be easy, a week, 100,000, you're never going to do the input required to actually get those crazy numbers. So yeah, as Alessio was saying, I think it's super powerful to share a story like yours. And actually, we literally just received a message in the community of another client. She's called Kim. She just posted it in the Winds like 2 minutes ago. And so grew from 2,500 followers to 22K followers on IG in 3 days. But she's been like posting for like 2 to 3 months, right? And she wasn't really getting that amount of followers. And in 3 days, she got 22,000 followers. And one of his latest videos has 7 million views, right? So it was funny how it happened exactly.
It literally happened today.
When you came here. But that's just another example. And Instagram is such like a compound platform. And you got to stick to the plan, trust the process, do the input required, of course, with the right strategy, and that will happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say there's a lot to say about the difference in the way that you speak and present yourself on the different platforms, because I had a lot of experience on camera. I was a filmmaker before I became a public speaking coach. And so I had been creating videos for LinkedIn for years. I know how to speak on camera. I know how to project energy. This is stuff that I teach. But the language was so different. And I did not realize it because on LinkedIn, I still use super simple language, but it's still that context. And you were one of the first people to point out to me, Nausheen, it still sounds too professional. It still sounds too corporate. It sounds too LinkedIn. Yeah. And it was an eye-opener for me because I do not use difficult language, but there are terms that are thrown in that could sound more LinkedIn. And that is part of that adaptation and customization for Instagram that you helped me do.
100%. And, we'd love to talk about 45 minutes on this, but we know you have to catch a plane, so we'll ask you a few last questions. Also for context with the people watching, we're in London right now. We just finished a 2-day mastermind together where we provide a massive amount of value to the audience that was there. I think that was a great experience. The next question that I'm going to ask you, I want you to be super, super sincere and honest, okay? Because it's very important for us to hear your opinion on this. In your opinion, if you didn't join, where would you honestly be right now when it comes to Instagram?
Frustrated. Super, super frustrated. I would have given up. Yeah. I would have thought I cannot crack Instagram, which would have been a pity because I get messages from people all the time saying, Nausheen, your videos helped me so much. I did a presentation at work and people came up to me, my boss came up to me and said, wow, that was awesome. And I used the tips that you used, that you share with us. People tell me, Nausheen, I'm so much better at handling conflict now because you share so much amazing advice on how do you make sure you're always in control. Nausheen, I feel so much more confident just by watching your free content. And I'm used to getting those kinds of comments from LinkedIn, but I never knew that I could make that level of an impact on Instagram because that's really what it's about, right? It's not vanity metrics. I don't want to wake up and look at my views and say, I got 3 million views. I'm awesome. Right. I already know I'm awesome. I already know that the work I do helps people. I already work with companies like Google and Amazon, the UN. I just signed a client from NASA. I know that I make a huge impact on the lives of people that I work with. But being on social media, being on a platform like Instagram helps you scale that impact. That's what it's really about. It's about leaving a legacy. I might seem young, but I'm 43. I'm going to turn 43 this year. I started building my brand when I was 38. That is late for a lot of people. A lot of people in their late 30s feel, if I'm not on socials, it's not for me. This is not how I grow my business. That is completely a myth. It's a limiting belief that you set for yourself, because I work with so many business owners and founders who have pivoted from the corporate life to entrepreneurship later in life. You've realized in your 30s or even your 40s that the corporate life was great, but there is more to me than my corporate identity. I want to share more with the world. I want to have a deeper, direct impact, because that's what being a coach, being a consultant, being a trainer does. You can see the impact you have on people's lives directly. Nothing like it in the corporate world, where the actual impact the company might have on people's lives is so far removed from you. So the work is super fulfilling, but it becomes way more fulfilling when you can see you have an impact on people without even needing to work one-on-one with them. And that is true influence and thought leadership.
100%. And it's about that, because you get used to everything. You get used to followers, you get used to money coming in. The one thing that every single time we hear it, to this day, just shocks us is, we were just at dinner yesterday with Darius and Vio, some of the youngest guys we have in the program. And for the first time, I truly heard their story, like their come up, like it literally came from, I swear, nothing. And they were like in such a crazy situation at first. And like, they were genuinely saying like, guys, like, I don't know if you understand, but you changed our lives with this. And it's like, it's so fulfilling because yes, it's number, yes, the revenue goes up, but how are you actually impacting people's lives? It's all about that. So I love that you said this, and because these are the kind of people that we want to attract, right? Yeah. Sure, you're making more money, you're getting more followers. Are you actually impacting those people's lives for the better, right? Because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I could be getting a similar number of views dancing on tables, potentially. Right. It would have entertained people. Would it have changed their lives? Probably not. Yeah. So when you know that you have something to share that can impact people at scale, and most experts and founders that both of us work with have that level of expertise that can really help people, that can really impact their lives, you owe it to people to not hide away your expertise. And it makes such a huge difference. You can be a force of positivity in the world through social media. And that might sound a little too optimistic or a little too woo-woo, especially for people that are a bit skeptical who are watching, but it's absolutely true. This is my way of being a force of positivity in the world.
100%. Love that. And, one of the last two questions, and I know you gotta go, but we grew 350,000 followers in the 6 months. What's your vision for the future now? What do you think this unlocked for both your life, your message, your business? Like, what are you looking forward now that you achieved these results?
So much. So the first thing I want to do is, of course, keep building the Instagram audience, experiment more and more. What it has unlocked already is, of course, a new revenue stream, a new audience base, people that would not have discovered me because they are simply not on LinkedIn. Right. A lot of people still think LinkedIn is a professional, boring CV sharing platform, which it's not. LinkedIn is awesome, by the way. But most people don't know that. Yeah. So to reach a wider audience, that was always the dream. And that's where I'm at now, where I can shape and build my offer and my services in different ways because now I have access to a much larger audience. The world is open. There's so much that I can do. It's super exciting. And like we discussed at the beginning, now I am really going to focus on building on YouTube because I have so many insights from what works for people, what is going to get me results, what's going to get traction. My experimentation mindset has been refueled, and that I feel is the number one thing for a creator. And embracing that creator mindset, because a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches feel that we're coaches, we run a business, we're not content creators, we're not influencers. And that's fine. You don't need to be an influencer, but if you want to actually create an impact, you are looking to build your thought leadership. You want to be known as an expert. And the word known is important. If you're an invisible expert, no one knows you. You think you're an expert and you know you're an expert. But if no one sees you as the expert, you're never going to get the recognition, the credibility, the reputation. That is what has been unlocked. Now people perceive me the way that I deserved to be perceived, as an expert in communication, as an expert in public speaking. And that is the door opener for so many possibilities.
100%. And when I jump on calls with like founders that achieve so many incredible things, the one thing that we talk about, and it's always very interesting to me, is it's not like they're talking about like followers as like, I want to reach millions of people. It's like they are in some way triggered by the fact that they have so much experience, but they're the one knowing about that. It's like,
Yes.
we have recently a guy that, I don't know how many, like he has like 15 exits with his business, helped build like 12 unicorns, like some crazy thing. And I'm like, I don't know you, man. Like it's the first time that I hear this. And I'm like, and he was like, yeah, I know, that's why I'm here, right? And it's like, there's so many amazing people out there that could impact so many more lives than they're already impacting. But if they don't build these audiences, they're never gonna do that.
Yeah.
So, I think this was a perfect example of what we were able to achieve and what that truly translates into.
Something I always teach people, that I always teach my clients, is that sharing your story builds your own confidence like crazy.
Yeah.
When you keep your story to yourself, your ideas, the things you've learned over time, the expertise that you've gained through blood, sweat, and tears, if you keep that to yourself, you are undervaluing your own story. You're undervaluing your own credibility and experience. The moment you start sharing it, just the act of sharing what you've learned builds your confidence tenfold. And that is something people don't understand. They don't appreciate till they start sharing and till they start getting feedback. Because of course, sharing is one thing, but speaking into the void does not help or encourage anyone. It feels more demotivating.
Right.
But sharing your story and actually having people resonate with it, that can be so incrementally amazing. It can be so powerful for the self-confidence that you have in yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, confidence comes from proof at the end of the day, right? So it's not about the number, but knowing that when you talk to people and you share what you know, millions of people engage with it, that just like confirms that, okay, I'm truly an expert, I'm impacting people's life, I can read through the comments, these are real people that are benefiting from the value that I'm sharing. And of course, that brings your confidence so much up, because it's like, you know those things, but I mean, it's different telling to a friend and giving advice or putting out there in the world and seeing hundreds of thousands, millions of people resonating with it, right? So yeah, 100%. Last question for you. If anyone is thinking about joining, what would you say to them?
Don't think, just do it. There is no hesitation at this point, because these guys have proven themselves over and over and over. And every single time, the way that we, the clients, speak about the work, it's not just, okay, let's get results, let's get real. No, it's real coaching and real support. And that is something that is incredibly rare. There are so many coaches that are not coaches. They try to be implementers. They try to be people that are accountability partners. They sometimes don't even give you access to themselves, and you only get access to their team. But working with you guys is the real deal, because we get emotional support, we get mindset and psychological support, and of course we get support on the data, the insights, the experience. And working with you is such a warm, supportive experience. And for me, that matters so much, because I've worked with dozens of coaches, but no one has reached that level of giving me that level of support, that no matter what, Nausheen, we're here for you. We are going to work on this together. Your problems are our problems. Most coaches don't do that. Most coaches are like, well, I've given you this level of support. Now you got to figure it out for yourself. It's your thing. But that's not why we sign up with coaches. If that was the case, I would have signed up with a content creation agency that was doing it all for me, right? They don't need to give me support. But you really live up to that potential of not just knowing your stuff inside out, but going 10 steps beyond that and giving that level of emotional and business support, the kind of advice and support and just the fact that you've created a space for me as an entrepreneur to come to you and vent anytime. I mean, those conversations, sorry guys, you will never ever see, because they really give me that space for me to go to them as my coaches. And the other incredible piece that we haven't really touched on is the fact that I am almost 15 years older than you, 15 to 17 years older than you. But I always look up to you as my coaches because I see that there's so much that you've learned and that you can share in such a kind, supportive, nurturing way that I don't ever feel that, oh, these guys don't have as much experience. Oh, they haven't seen the world as much, because you've really learned, you've really transcended beyond that age. I mean, if people don't think that I'm in my 40s, they definitely shouldn't underestimate you because you are too young, because you're absolutely not. Like, the wisdom and the support and the maturity that you bring to this relationship is easily that of someone in their 30s, 40s, or their 50s. And this is the incredible part, because I feel that you have really grown through your journey exponentially, not just in numbers or in business, but in mindset and psychologically. And that benefits us as your clients.
100%. And the thing that you said before, I feel like that's really what hits us the most. Like, outside of just like the results, of course, and the impact that we're able to get, but how we really want people to perceive us is that we actually care, right? Yeah. Because this is something that we hear so often, especially in the coaching industry or in the info product industry. Anybody that sells information helps people through a transformation, which is the situation in which it just becomes purely transactional, right? It's just, pay me money, and it's like, I give you exactly what you paid for, and that's it. And the fact that we are always willing to go well beyond that because we truly care. Like, to us, it's like the moment in which you pay us, it's also putting the trust in us, and we have a responsibility and a duty as coaches to not only get you to the result, but support you all the way through it.
Yeah, I have something to share there, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to share publicly, but when we were in month 4, and we had initially signed on for 6 months, right? And I was thinking, there's no way we're going to accomplish this. We're more than halfway through this program. Have we already failed? And Brian, you said, Nosheen, I don't care about the 6 months. It doesn't matter. We are going to work with you till we crack this. You don't even worry about that. And that was so reassuring to me. It really showed me that they're not in this for the money. You're not in it to just make a quick buck and say, sorry, we tried, we failed. That happens, life happens. No, I felt like, wow, that means if it takes 8 months, if it takes 12 months, they're not going to come back to me and say, Nosheen, now you got to pay us double. Right. And it's amazing that you're laughing at that, because you're like, why would I even do that? But that's what people do. They say, oh, it didn't work. Now you have to sign on for the next program. And by that time, you're disenchanted, desperate. You've already invested time, effort, and money. And that's what gives coaches a bad rap. A lot of times people think, oh, anyone can be a coach. That's not true. Anyone can call themselves a coach, but not everyone can actually be a coach. So the fact that you care and that you are actually making that part of your brand is amazing. I love that. And that is why I recommend you to anyone, eyes closed. And I know that you will get them results regardless of what their niche is, what their specialization is, what their experience on camera is, what their experience of the platform is. Because the fact that you care means you're going to go above and beyond. If there's something you don't know, you are going to find out. Right. Before me, you hadn't worked with public speaking coaches before. I was the first. So you didn't know what public speaking on Instagram looked like. You did your homework. You did your research. You came to me in our first onboarding call with all the research. You knew the influencers, the big names in the industry already. I didn't have to tell you. Yes. And that's the level of research and preparation that you do for all your clients. And that is what impresses us, because it's not just lip service. It's not just transactional. It's really a relationship of care that you cannot put a price on.
100%. And I still believe that ultimately you still get paid as much as you impact people, right? And so as you were describing right now, it's like, yes, true. We could have been like, hey, we get to the end of the program, you need to pay us again. And that would have been like such a bittersweet type of experience. And instead, we really pushed through and we did everything in our power. And as a consequence, it's, as you were saying, now you recommend us to everybody. And so it's like, it goes a long way, in my opinion. And of course, like we do it for the impact. But I believe that everybody also that approaches coaching in that sense is so short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really a testament to your emotional maturity. Which coach in their 20s plays the long game? Very few. People are in it to make a quick buck. People are in it to keep the business going for another few months, for another few weeks. And they get short-sighted and they feel like, I just need to do a money grab. I need to get as much money as possible. But that is absolutely not the way that you guys do business. And that's why you've been able to build something that you are now going to scale beyond what I'm assuming is also your imagination, right? When you guys first started, you also started from scratch, from a basement. And now you're on your way to 300K months, which is incredible. I tell my friends this story, my friends who are also 15 to 20 years older than you, and they have never seen this kind of revenue in their lives. And they don't realize it's possible. But the foundation is what people aren't willing to spend time, money, and effort on. It probably wasn't easy for you as a young entrepreneur to tell clients that we are going to work with you. It doesn't matter what you've paid us or how long you've signed up for. I'm sure there was something at the back of your head thinking, if it doesn't work for another 6 months, I'm going to have to work for 6 months for free. But the fact that you were able to really think of that long game and think that it's the relationship that's important, and the fact that you have trust in the process yourself 1,000%, that you were always like, it's a matter of time. I am never, ever going to be stuck doing this because you also saw that I did the work and I put in the hard work from day one. So just having that level of understanding, trust, and long-term vision is a great testament to your emotional maturity.
100%. Because in my opinion as a coach, the moment where you see the action from the other side, right? Because you always have the person that joins and then is not willing to do the work, right? That's another area, right? But it's like when the other person is actually doing the input, following our advice and doing what we ask them to do, like there's no way that we're gonna stop because like that person is putting their trust in us. They're doing the inputs that we know eventually will end up with results. So why stop? Like to me, it's such like a wasted potential at that point because like we've proven ourselves so many times now with all the people that we helped. So I mean, when someone is doing the work and is willing to put in that work to make it happen, it would be such a disservice for both of us, you know, to stop it there. So, and we've seen business, relationship, everything. When you genuinely change someone's life, that's so much fulfillment for both of us, right?
Absolutely.
Love it. All right. Now you got a plane to catch. Thank you. Thank you for the 20-minute time that you extra 20-minute that we talked. And me and Nosheen, we're super excited for our future ahead. We still know that is genuinely just the beginning.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for everything that you've done for me, for the business. And yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going to get rid of me. I see us building on this relationship for many, many, many years to come. I am so excited for your growth. I am so excited to grow with you. I'm so excited to get ideas, inspiration, collaborations in the future. So yeah, it's just the beginning. And what a beautiful beginning it is.